Morning, friends. How you doing today? So I wanted to take on a topic that almost has mythical powers or story in real estate investing, especially for new investors, and that's the concept of BRRRR: buy, repair, rent, refi, repeat. I just felt like I had to, kind of tell the full story about BRRRR because it's taken on such a consistent communication and questions from a lot of new investors that I speak with, that I thought I would highlight that there is a dark side, right? There are risks involved. As you will see on this presentation, we have leveraged BRRRR extensively, and it has been a great part of our success. That said, I have firsthand experience with all the failure points and risks and other things that can catch a new investor by surprise. I also have some pretty strong opinions that I think there's a kind of a right way or a right person to tackle BRRRR, and I think there's a wrong way. And this is really what led to this presentation. At least I haven't seen anybody talk about, when is BRRRR not right? Are you the type of investor that maybe, given your constraints or variables or situations, that you shouldn't try it? BRRRR is talked about with such passion and I don't know how else to say it, but smiles and all these things, that it's assumed to be the right answer for everyone. And as someone who's been in this game a while, I don't think there is a single real estate investing strategy that's right for everyone. And I think somebody had to stand up and at least call out that maybe it's not right for some of you. So I created a presentation this morning, and I want to go ahead and share that with you, and let's talk about it. All right, so move this window a little bit. So I guess, I didn't know what else to call it. I just wanted to highlight that the BRRRR strategy has a dark side, or it has things that are risk points that are often glossed over or missed entirely. So I thought I would talk about them, just so you know that maybe it's not the right answer for you. So we're just going to highlight what it is, just in case you don't know what it is. We're going to talk about why it attracts so many new investors. We're going to talk about the negative surprises, or the things that I think are not discussed, or at least not discussed enough. We're going to talk about, is the strategy right for you? And, but the flip side of that, is it wrong for you, right? Is it something that you should avoid for some other reason? And of course, I just wouldn't be me if I didn't highlight our experience with it. And again, our experience has been nothing but positive. So creating a presentation about the dark side when our experience has been positive can seem like at odds, but hopefully it's clear in this presentation that I'm just trying to prevent some people from making a mistake. Again, BRRRR has been great for us, but again, I have some pretty strong opinions that maybe it's not right for some of you. So I believe, and I've said this a couple of times, that I believe the credit for the creation of this acronym goes to the team at BRRRR. I'm not sure if it was Josh Dorkin or Brandon Turner or both of them. I've seen videos with both of them joking around, where I think Brandon got the credit for creating it first, I think, but I'm not sure. So I wasn't sure who would give it to. So we'll give it to Josh Dorkin and Brandon Turner, both from the BRRRR team. So it starts off with buy, right? You got to buy an asset. What's not said there is you're buying an asset, below market. You're going to repair it. Either you or your team is going to repair it. You're going to rent it, lease it out. You're going to refi it, right? You're going to pull all your capital out. What might not be said earlier in the buy aspect is maybe you're buying for cash, or you're buying with hard money or private money. Basically, you're not leveraging bank financing with your purchase. And then you are going to a bank, at least in most cases, for the refi, right? So you're going to be buying this with, most people are paying 9, 10, 11, 12% interest, short-term money, a couple of points up front, all of that. And then you're going to refi it, right? Certainly below 6% today, probably most of you below 5%, but that gets the idea. And then you're going to repeat. And this is where BRRRR gets its sizzle. Right? It's very simple. It's very elegant. Brandon and Josh did a great job of putting this together and creating the story around BRRRR, because it's easy for all of us to understand and appreciate, and it's very nicely done. They get a ton of credit for that. So why does it attract so many people? Well, first, the story, right, of BRRRR is sexy, right? Be able to leverage a pile of capital over and over and over and over and over again. Plus, it's simple, right? There's not a step in the process that is put out there as complicated, right? Or you got to buy something, then you got to repair it, then you got to rent it out, then you got to refi it, then repeat. I mean, it's a genius move, frankly, and I can see why so many people are attracted to it and follow it in their books and blogs and forums and the like. The other one is everybody likes to get a deal, right? The genius of BRRRR in my mind is it starts with a buy. And everybody likes to think they're getting a deal, right? They're getting something under market. Everybody likes to buy stuff on sale. So when you start with a purchase and you've locked in your profit and done all of that, it's a great way to start. Again, it's a great way to leverage capital, right? In theory, you could use the same, if you only had, I'm just going to make up a number, 20 grand, you could leverage that. And for some of you that get really aggressive with BRRRR, you could see yourself having no capital, right? I really don't think this is a great option for most, and I think it's risky. But there are people attempting to do BRRRR today not using a single dollar of their money. What they're doing is they're borrowing the purchase price and they're borrowing the repair money. Yes, they're borrowing 100%. And they're hoping they got such a great deal that at the refi time, they can go back and refinance and pull capital out. Now, it does happen. I know people doing it today in my market, right? My market of Fresno, and it's working. But as you will see momentarily, there are some things that give them a fighting chance, and we'll talk about those. But again, BRRRR is a great way to go because it's just sexy. I can do all of this with none of my money. How great is that? It's repeatable, right? It closes with repeat, which is just, makes it feel like just a continuous circle. Just keep doing it over and over again, and no money of mine, and I'm in the system, and I figured it out. I can buy real estate, no money down. I can go through a full process, and at the end, I have a cash flowing property. Well, maybe. All the leading real estate investor sites and meetups and books and all of that seem to push the idea that if you're a beginner, you need to go after BRRRR, because again, it's easy to understand. You can get into it with no money. I just don't think there's anybody talking about the risks. So if everybody can do it, if you look at someone and go, they're doing it, you naturally think you're smarter than them and you could do it too. You get a lot of that kind of in the beginning. And the last thing is I haven't seen anyone until this presentation brave enough to call out what I call the dark side, or just at least the risks of BRRRR. I've talked to, I don't know if it's 100 yet, but let's call it dozens of people who attempted to do BRRRR, and because it was easy, it's what the book said, it's what BiggerPockets was putting out there, and they got burned, right, at different steps in the process. And they lost everything, or they lost thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And I just want to put it out there that there is some risks, people, and it's just, you just need to acknowledge that there are some risks. So where are these negative surprises? So again, BRRRR has been sold as this easy process that everyone can and frankly should do, and that's where I get nervous. Anytime I see something that says everyone should do it, that's just arrogant. Real estate investing has so many different options and people involved and constraints and all these different things that there's not a single thing that everyone should do. And this is the thing that kind of set me off when I kept hearing more and more stories about people doing BRRRR and losing, that I wanted to get it on some video and hopefully help some people realize that maybe BRRRR is not for them. I believe what's not talked about enough with BRRRR is that new investors need to match their constraints with their strategy. everybody who talks about BRRRR, it's back to the easy story. But what we should be talking about is there are constraints that make it better or worse for you, right? What's your time, skill, dollars, location, right? What are all these things that you have that are your true constraints, and do they match up with what is required to do BRRRR, right? So that's really what I think was missing in all the videos and things that I've read. So again, buy. This all blows up if you buy wrong, right? If you buy in a market you don't know because so-and-so said do this or do that, and you didn't realize it was on the wrong street, or it had it had the wrong plumbing, or wiring was stripped, or whatever, you're done. You're done before you even started, right? If you buy wrong because you haven't learned your market, you're toast. And this is something that I'm really adamant about helping new investors understand, is it all starts with the purchase. So I've spent a lot of time creating a course that helps you learn your market, or learn any market. And I really do believe buying real estate is a skill. I think if you can answer the question of what's a bad, average, good, and great deal in your market of choice, your chances of success go through the roof. And that's what I'm trying to help people with. And I don't think BRRRR does a great job of communicating how important the buy step is. Most of the stuff that I see in the BRRRR method talk about the repair being the one that can get you. But if you don't buy right, you're done. And hence, this is something that I'm very adamant about helping people understand. Repair. A lot of the stories I hear around BRRRR, people said they got the scope of work, they got their team involved, they released their first batch of funds, and poof, contractor disappeared. Or worse, they got halfway into the project, got that second or third chunk of money, realized they had a problem, and bolted. There's just so many ways that when you have extended teams, you can't watch it. There's not a process for change orders, and you're using 3 different teams, and it's just so much risk on the repair side. Especially if it's not in your backyard, as you'll see in a minute, that I would really caution people from doing BRRRR, and certainly the first time, because the repair side can really eat your lunch. Rent. There's a couple of things on the rent side. First off, can you get the rent that you thought you were going to get when you started? Most people are doing BRRRR because they're trying to be buy and hold investors. So are you using the same team to help manage tenants? Is it a different team? I can promise you a GC or general contractor doing your repairs probably doesn't want to deal with tenants, right? So do you have separate teams? What's the problem? Do you have attorneys on hand to do evictions? And just realize that running a team of, large remodels or repairs and running a growing portfolio, being a landlord, is hard. You really do need to develop separate processes and procedures. And I don't think anybody talks about that. Refi. Again, it's talked about so easily. Replacing hard or private or cash, depending on how you're doing it, is sexy. It's I get all my money back, or at least most of my money back. But truth be told, cash out refis have higher interest rates. Where some of you today are getting purchase money investment loans with a 4 on it, right? If you're going to do a cash out refi, it's going to be in the 5s, and for some of you, it'll be in the 6s, right? Would you rather have a 4% interest rate or a 6, right? There's some of you where you have the cash and you don't need to do this, that maybe you should be buying not junk, frankly, right? So there's just some things that aren't often discussed when I hear about the BRRRR method. And again, right, do you really want to go through this process and all the drama and change orders and risks and surprises over and over and over again while you're working a full-time job trying to raise your family, especially if you're doing it in a far-off land? I've seen some people go after this and they're just beaten up and worn out after they do one. So, is it really something you want to do? So is BRRRR right for you? I think BRRRR is great if you've already spent the time and learned your market, because it all starts with buying right. This is frankly what I teach in my course. How do you learn a market? How do you run your numbers? Basically, I firmly believe that buying investment properties is a skill. And what I mean by that is once you learn your market, you can understand what a bad, average, good, and great deals are. I believe if you're doing BRRRR or turnkey or any other strategy, it all starts with the purchase. So that's where I focus on helping people. But again, with BRRRR, if you're going to do it, have you learned your market? The other one is, do you have time to watch your projects at least every other day, right? There are so much stuff going on in your projects that time and money can get away from you if you're not watching it, or at least having boots on the ground that you trust, family members, lifelong friends, I don't know, somebody that's going to be watching the dollars and timeline like their own. That is critical. Do you have system and processes in place? Right? Is there a process to document change orders? Is there a consistent paint colors and flooring and fixtures, so that anything you can do to remove time and decision points during the process, are you good to go? Because time is money. You have separate processes and procedures, or frankly team members, to handle your tenants, because you're doing BRRRR because you're trying to build up a buy and hold rental portfolio, which is awesome. But do you realize that you need separate people and processes to handle tenants? Handling daily tenant activity or issues, very different than building a project or remodeling a project that doesn't have anybody living there. And then lastly, right, do you have a full-time job and family responsibilities, and you can frankly have the time and energy to tolerate daily surprises, right? So if those are all yeses, then yeah, BRRRR strategy can be great for you. So I would not do BRRRR if I was a new investor and my choice was to invest out of state, I just wouldn't do it. Far too many risks, too many ways for you to lose your money. And it's not where I would start. I know it's sexy. I know it's sold as easy. I know there's people that promise to do all this and that for you, but it's certainly not where I would start. There's too many risks out there. The other one is if you have no time, right? If you have no time to do this, right, because you have a crazy life, crazy job, crazy family responsibilities, and adding in a BRRRR project to your timeline would be a recipe for disaster, right? It'd either throw your work life into chaos, or your family life, or you would go weeks beyond weeks from checking in. That just screams risks. And lastly, if you are 100% relying on others in a far off land or other location, maybe they're great. Maybe you're the lucky one. But for most of you, even if you got one right, you're eventually going to lose, and probably lose spectacularly. So my experience with BRRRR, again, when I was doing it back in the late 2000s, it wasn't called that. I don't think Brandon or Josh had, been creative and created it just yet. At least I don't think. So we used it extensively during the crash. What we focused on was the buy side, right? We knew our market. We constantly learned our market. We were watching every day. We had the processes in place. We focused on the refi, right? Getting the money out and paying off investors. And obviously we were dedicated to repeating. So that meant we had to rely on others, but we had a dedicated team that we had 10-year relationships with to leverage the repair side. These folks that had been with us, we had documented, we had built processes and procedures, and we had a separate team, a dedicated team just to do the remodels and repairs. And we had an entirely different team to do the rent. This is key, right? We had one team doing the repair, and we had a totally separate team doing the rent, or really tenant management, because we had lots of units at this time. So we weren't, we had very clear lines of responsibility and treated the team separately. Again, processes and procedure in place for everything. Every property had the same paint colors, fixtures. Maybe the kitchen layout was slightly different, but it was the same white cabinets that went in, same tile, same paint colors on the outside. It got kind of boring, frankly, but that was all done, so decisions were lower. Because we knew our market cold, had a team in place, processes and procedures built, tested multiple teams and multiple teams, BRRRR was great for us. It was a tremendous strategy. And again, We didn't call it that. I fully admit that we did not create that acronym, but that's what we were doing time and time again during the crash, and it was wildly successful. So in closing, I think BRRRR can be a tremendous tool to learn and leverage for investors. I think it's a great tool for many investors. I just don't think it's great for everyone. Never forget, if you're starting out, that BRRRR, while it's anything that sounds too easy or too good to be true, often is. And I can't stress enough that every real estate investing strategy I've seen starts with your buy. You need to learn your market. You need to invest time. You know, I did this by accident way back when, just because I was detail oriented, and I needed to learn my market, and I needed to understand what a bad, average, good, and great deal were. So that's what I did, and that's what I now teach folks. And I think if you do that, if you learn your market, it really helps you reduce the risk, because it's been said in every book I've read, you make your money when you buy. And if you don't learn your market, it's a huge risk. If you buy wrong and you overpay, it really doesn't matter. If you don't know your market and you buy an average deal because you think it's a great deal, you're toast. You won't get all your money out. You'll have to cut corners. You're going to lose. You're going to either lose now or lose later. You have to learn your market. You have to buy right. If you don't have a good repair team, and by that I mean someone you can, boots on the ground, people you trust, people that are going to treat the project like their own, that's going to crush you. And this is what really crushes lots of new investors, especially people trying to do a new strategy in a new market. Just too many risks, folks. And then again, realize that you are building out a portfolio now, right? That's the whole goal of BRRRR. So you need to have separate processes and procedures, and ideally team members to manage tenants, because it is very different. And then this is the big one that I think catches a lot of people that jump on the BRRRR bandwagon because they think it's easy. It might be easy to understand, and it's certainly sexy, but there's a huge time component that is not involved, because you are essentially running a project that can take up to 100 days. And there are so many risk points that if you're not watching it and dedicating time to it, you can find some negative surprises. So in the end, realize that, I'm a strong believer in BRRRR method. I just think that there is a dark side. I think there's risks that people don't talk about. Let me know what you think. If you want to send me an email and ask questions, there's my email. I do have a YouTube channel, which is called One Rental at a Time. I have this book available on Amazon called One Rental at a Time. And again, the BRRRR method can be very valuable. I just don't think it's right for everyone. And it was important for me to get this documented because I don't think it's right for everyone. All right. Let me know what you think. Have a great day.